So what should we start with?
Existence.
Existence.
Okay.
That's a great place to start.
So existential and existential therapy and existential phenomenology. What I like about existential therapy, personally, is the fact that it's critical of a medical model that has tried creatively to construct an alternative to psychoanalytic, psychodynamic thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And that, unlike sister approaches within the humanistic tradition, it didn't go all soppy. There is a sort of an edge. There is, the tradition, particularly French existentialism.
Mm-hmm.
But even in Husserl, it seems to be the place where it's okay to ask big questions.
Okay.
And I like that.
When you say soppy, what do you mean? Sentimental?
Sentimental, the humanistic thing. We are all one. We're all together. Why don't you send love to others? And I was recently in some event hosted by some humanistic practitioners, and we had to go through this grueling loving exercises where it was taken for granted that you do want to hug and you do want to love the other person. It's just that you are too conditioned to do so.
Right.
It's a militant, lovey-dovey thing, which, as far as I know, the existential approach is a little bit removed from. There is a certain austere sternness, uncompromising look at the human condition.
Of analysis.
Of
analysis.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
you say a little bit. Is there other still signs of the same affection for love in existential phenomenology too?
Yeah, that would be the next thing to discuss. So for me, the premise is this: existential phenomenology is open enough to inquiry, to exploration, and unlike many other approaches, which tend to be more dogmatic, there is room, and it's critical of the medical model, the biological model. It's critical of psychoanalysis, and then within it, then there is it has fossilized into what is canonically orthodox existential therapy and what is not. And that's problematic. And one of the orthodoxy is this belief in the ground of universal relatedness, which seems to be now dogma within the main or the most prominent discourses in existential therapy.
So are you saying, Manu, that in a sense existentialism is against dogmas of all kinds, like the medical model, psychoanalytic, some of the previous traditions, but as in it defined itself, at least originally, let's not say of all kinds, but it defined itself originally as in counterpose to some of those things, but then has generated some dogmas of its own, which
yes.
you would then question at the leading edge of existential thought.
Yes.
Right.
And of course, to state that it is against dogmas of all kinds, it's a little bit
dogma for a start.
Yeah, it's kind of grand.
Yeah.
But at least there is enough room for trust in process, experience, exploration.
Mm-hmm.
And that's already a good antidote to create something before, existence before essence.
It's an openness before a fixedness.
Yeah. So existence before essence, openness before a fixedness, as you say. But the challenge we have now, for example, one challenge is this dogma of universal relatedness, which comes really from psychoanalytic, relational psychoanalysis and intersubjectivity. But the other dogma that is creeping in, and it's out of a desire to oblige towards the institutions, towards the policymakers, is the obsession with quantitative and data. So we reach the point now where in some sectors of existential therapy is no longer existence before essence, but data before existence.
Okay.